We are, we are Savannah, Kate, Annie, and Jess. We chose to do our project on Nibble Inc. We were interested in exploring a small business operation instead of a larger operation because we wanted to know how a family business operates and adapts to policies and procedures that are meant for a large-scale food service operation. We also loved the concept of a donut shop and wanted to see what inspired the owner to bake donuts for a living. This is Nibble Inc's storefront location. On the door you can see that it has a sold out sign. Sometimes this happens when she runs out of donuts for the day, usually around 2.
So, about Nibble Inc. Nibble Inc. is a unique donut shop on the corner of Broadway and 5th in historic Troy. It is completely family run and has a pre-order site at a cafe bookstore in Albany called Nibble West. The building used to be a diner-type establishment called Francesca's. Jessie Kramer, the owner and creative vision, got the idea for her unique style of donuts after discovering a similar shop in Portland, Maine. The unique style of donut making uses potato and flour base, a style that can be traced back to have roots in Amish and French culture. This makes a decadent, filling treat that many people enjoy. Jessie loved baking ever since she was a kid. She knew she didn't want to do construction work with her father forever and searched for a change. When she moved to Troy 5 years ago, she fell in love with the business culture and opened up her shop. She's been open for about a year now. This picture was taken off of her website. If you were to look it up right now, it would be completely different because the menu changes weekly. As you can see, the menu is very pretty with the little donut and the vine design. The donuts, as you can see, are very unique and very delicious. This is a picture of her menu online, and on the menu she separates her donuts into simple, signature, and cocktail. Also included on the menu are sandwiches, soups, and coffee, and beverages. And the menu is written in very simple yet elegant font. Every week there's a new signature donut based on customer demand and Jessie's personal preferences. This week's is vanilla chai, very popular amongst our group. It is easy for her to change the recipe so frequently because she has her base recipe that she always modifies. Plain donuts can be stuffed with a variety of jellies, cream, ice cream, and yogurt. There's also specialty donuts like her favorite, the sweet potato brown sugar, and dark chocolate sea salt, her best seller. There are also gluten-free plain donuts that she makes in the oven instead of frying, we will elaborate on later. Other goods include knishes, soups, and chili, usually made by Jessie's mother. Pocket sandwiches, made to order Hot Pockets, are also a delight. Some of their most popular drinks include apple cider, Mexican hot chocolate, and coffee from Spillin' the Beans.
For the layout, I will be discussing in the next slide the downstairs layout and decor, the floor, lighting, and ceiling, as well as the back room and upstairs bake area. Some recent renovations that she has done was converting the counter from one side of the area to the other, where it is now. The Francesca's used to have a completely different layout. However, we had to keep some of the stuff consistent because of the historic district. Being in historic Troy causes some issues when it comes to renovating because you have to make sure you keep some things constant, such as the ceiling. She also had to install some updated safety features to bring the store up to code, which included an oil-free extinguishing spray, which we will talk about later. Just for reference, the top image is what the building used to look like about 100 years ago, and the bottom image is what Francesca's used to look like before the renovations occurred. Here is the picture of the general layout when you walk into the facility. As you can see, the downstairs area is complete with tables around the perimeter for easy movement and access to the counter. The donuts and menu are displayed on a big blue wall opposite the entrance. The cashier and soup area are in an L-shaped counter in front of this wall, and behind the counter is the prep area to stuff the donuts, including a mini fridge to house the stuffing items such as the ice cream. There are mats behind the counter to prevent falls. On the adjacent wall, behind the circular table in the picture, is an inlet where the coffee and condiments are displayed for customers to make themselves. There is also a caddy of free books near the door where you enter. The floor is refinished with ceramic tile that is made to look like wood, and the ceiling is made of tin and was remained untouched by renovation. However, she did paint it white. There is indirect lighting. However, as you can see, there is a ton of natural light and the lighting is barely used. Behind the counter are two full-sized reach-in fridges with essentials like milk and ice. In the next room is the back kitchen. There are counters around the perimeter with a small counter with mixers, pots, blenders, and cooking utensils with a hand-washing sink and a 3-compartment sink with shelves. The next wall you approach has a deep fat fryer next to an open range stove with a metal prep table in between. There is also a side door for receiving purposes behind the blue wall. As you continue back into the establishment, you go upstairs and arrive in the donut making room. The room is poorly lit because that is how Jessie likes it early in the morning, as she arrives at 3 in the morning. It has a rising cabinet where the donut dough is prepped the night before and stored, as well as shelves, one holding the chemicals and one holding the food items so they are properly separated. The open flour is stored in airtight containers underneath the metal prep table for easy access. There is also a standing mixer with a grate on it for protection. Here is a picture of the deep fat fryer I was talking about in the previous slide. As you can see, next to it is the open range stove with the prep table in between. It was very hard to get pictures of the back of the facility because of the poor lighting. The typical customer at Nibble Inc. is a person in their late 20s and early 30s, with other customers including college-age kids, families, and the elderly. They serve anywhere from 30 to 200 people daily, with the busiest day by far being Saturday. They are only open 9 to 2 on Saturdays, but they are swamped from opening to close. Jessie acknowledges that her donuts are not for everyone and offers any dissatisfied customers a refund and is very nice to them.
Okay, so Jessie is the owner, manager, and founder of the business. Because she's the manager, she makes all the final decisions about the donuts, the recipes, the prices, and the orders that she places. She treats the business like it's her baby, and she's in charge of most things, but the family consults her on everything. There are no official business meetings, but the family discusses things all the time. Everyone's involved in the problem solving and the goal setting because they all have a stake in the business. Each family member has their own skills that contribute to the bakery. For example, Jessie's mom makes the chili every week because that's her specialty. She also makes the different soup every week because she's good at that. And her sister might prefer to be the cashier while others work on making donuts and things like that. There is no employee evaluation procedure or absentee policy because every worker is family, so there's a lot of understanding and it's a close-knit organization. Only recently did Jessie put up an ad for an assistant baker, and as you can see, they're now hiring. This is because it's a lot of work and it's incredibly hard to find someone who can make the shifts at 3 or 5 in the morning and make the donuts.
So just to reiterate, Jessie does everything. She makes all the final decisions with ordering food, developing food specs, talking to vendors, and receiving the food. If she's busy, her other family members can also receive the orders. At Nibble Inc., they use an informal contract system, which means the orders are placed over the phone with no bidding. She uses the same providers every time, and she is really friendly with them, and because of that close relationship, she can text them or call them with problems with her orders. Her primary vendor is Hillcrest, and she gets most of her products from them and spends most of her money on them. They require a minimum of $350 per an order, so she gets all her dry goods like flour and baking powder from them. Some of her other vendors include W.B. Mason for her paper products and the local milkman who brings her milk and cream, and she can just adjust her recipes to whatever he brings her. She also uses local providers to provide smaller ingredients. The cold-pressed juices come from Collar City Juices, her coffee comes from Spilling the Beans, and her beer is from Brown's Brewery. Her vendors know her usual orders because her menu is pretty set and she just gets refills. It's almost like a prescription. When she runs out, she contacts them and they just bring her the same stuff again. She spends about $600 a week on ingredients and she prefers to pay in cash because it saves money.
Deliveries must be made at a time when they can be properly received. Because of this, Hillcrest comes first thing in the morning before Nibble Inc. opens. This way Jessie can properly receive all the items because they can't afford to hire someone to do it. All the other vendors come at random times throughout the day, but they schedule it so that Jessie can receive it. The big orders are received through the side door, while most small ones come in the front door, like the milkman. Jessie inspects all the deliveries herself. She can call or text vendors if she finds something wrong, and they will come and replace the unsatisfactory good. For a measure of quality control, she throws away anything that doesn't meet her standards. She also supports local businesses and promotes their business. If one shop runs out of something, they'll lend a hand.
Storage. So the donut shop doesn't have many wet goods, so most of this is dry storage, and it's predominant for most donut shops. It does also have fridge and multiple freezers, though, and because of this, the temperature is monitored for all of the storage units. As far as inventory goes, there's a mental inventory kept by Jessie, and she labels everything and always obeys the first in, first out rule. She follows the min-max system by making sure to have at least one of everything. In the event of a fire, oil foam sprays from the ceiling. There's a large button that she has easy access to in the kitchen. However, if this does happen, the facility has to shut down for 2 weeks. In the event of an infestation of pests, she has to hire an exterminator, and then they have to come back in and make sure that everything's okay. And everything is cleaned every few days or every day, so that shouldn't happen, but there aren't very strict HACCP plans because the donuts are not really considered to be high risk. Production. Because the business is new, Jessie still has to come in anywhere from 3 to 5 a.m. to start frying and baking the donuts. The gluten-free one, which was mentioned earlier, is done first. The dough is prepared the night before and kept in the rising cabinet. One dough can be made at a time, and this dough makes about 80 donuts. The dough is fried throughout the day. A dozen of each kind of donut is kept on display, and another dozen is always kept as a backup to prevent running out, and that shelf is kept just behind the shelf that's visible to customers. 24 donuts can fit in the fryer at once. Extra donuts are not wasted. They're donated to St. Joseph's and local vendors. There's a very quid pro quo feel in the local businesses where they always give stuff to each other and, like loan your neighbor a cup of sugar. Typically, there's very little waste for the donuts because of this, and they're made in small batches, so there usually isn't much waste anyway. The portion size for one person is 1 donut, and it's hard for Jessie to tell how much she should be making in one day. She has statistical data to forecast her customers who will be coming in, but it's very hard to pinpoint because she is a new business, so the statistics don't really mean much yet. Service. So instead of having a complicated cash register, Jessie has Square, which is a credit card reader device, and it's used to do the orders. There's no card minimum, which is really great for her business. If there's off-premise delivery, it's done to Nibble West, which is in Albany. Just in the business, located in Troy, customers order at the counter, and food is brought to them only if it's something that needed to be heated, like their pocket sandwiches. At the end of the day, any tips that are accumulated are distributed among workers. Occasionally, they will cater to a wedding or a birthday party or anniversary, but most of their business is done right on the Troy location. If something does happen to go wrong with their service, a busted pipe, a broken window, the problem is fixed immediately because Jessie does have a background in construction. If it's something that can't be fixed immediately, they do have to call a professional, but luckily, sometimes that can just be her dad.
We would like to thank you for watching our presentation and hope you learned as much as we did.